I want to thank all of you for coming and feeling the need to improve and create even a better difference, a better business. I myself is Sheila Skolnick Worldwide. That's my company. And I'm a teacher, trainer, consultant. I do seminars and workshops. And my goal is to teach everybody, when I speak, how I do what I do and how I created the business that I created. First of all, I have 47 principles of business. The purpose of these principles is to give you a new way of thinking. I'm not going to tell you how, but I'm here to give you a new way of thinking. Instead of why not, why so? If I can change your thinking, it can change your life and change your world. My childhood was a lot of what I do and a lot of what I learned comes from my childhood. I grew up in a very poor community in a very dangerous housing project in Brooklyn. It was violent. It was awful. My schools were so horrific that I finally, after many years, taught myself to read. I got tired of using fence posts as that's the way to go there and that's the way to go there because I couldn't even read the street signs. It was nothing about the schools or the teachers. It was just the fact that half the people in my school did not speak English and the other half had no parental guidance. So I just got swept up in that big wave. Later in life, I needed to find a way to support my children. And I wasn't about to not let them have what they needed in life. I wasn't about, because of my history, not to have them at good schools and great colleges. So I decided to sell operating and equipment to hotels. I just figured out, look, these are big buildings, and since I had no money, no connections, and no knowledge of the industry, that's how I started my business. I said, these big hotels, they have money, and if they don't pay, I can go to corporate and get it. So that was my thinking, and I just proceeded to go door to door to hotels. I saw 13 hotels a day. I didn't know what to do, so I went around asking them a great question. At least I thought it was great. What is it that you're looking for that your present supplier isn't giving you, or you can't find, or you need a better pricing? And then what you do is you shut your mouth, get your pen and paper out, and they will tell you. And you do this over and over again until you create a list of products that the hotels want. And I was very unique because I just didn't sell linens or silverware or bedding. I sold whatever they were looking for. And I was finding the hole in the operations. What is an entrepreneur? He finds a hole and fill it. I had a ball because I asked for what they needed. And that went awesomely well. So at any rate, as I mentioned, I started with nothing. And X number of years later, not that many years later, a $6 billion company came along, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, who had a hotel supply division, wanted my company. He made me an offer I couldn't refuse, so off I went. I'm not using my clicker because I'm not used to clicking. Excuse me. My principles of business. So what I like about the fact that I started with no money, no knowledge, no anything, is the fact that you have people that go around saying, I can't do this because I have no money. I can't do this because I don't know anything. You get all the people that walk around going, I can. I did it. I'm telling you I did it. I'm going to give you some thoughts and ideas how I did it. And it was actually quite fun. I will say one thing, though. I work 24 hours, 7 days a week. So when people say they want to start a new business so they can be their own boss, yeah, I'm my own boss. I can just work 24 hours, 7 days a week to the day I sold my company, not a second less. My next principle is, if it's to be, it's up to me. So what that means is, in life, I in life and you want to be successful, you have to take all the responsibility for everything that goes on around you. You know, some people say, oh, my business isn't doing good because of the government, because of mom and dad and the culture and the economy. Forget that. You have to keep all the power right here. Take full control of what's going on, because if you don't, you'll lose all your power to fix it. Because no one's going to run up and fix it for you, and blaming other things and other things around you does not help you move forward. As a matter of fact, it keeps you captive to nothingness, absolute nothingness. So when anything went wrong, I handled it. I never complained about it to anybody. I never said, woe is me, or it's everyone's fault. I just kept all the power here. So I had the power to fix it. And so if it's to be, it's up to me. My second principle is not asking is an automatic no. So this is like so important because, you know, first of all, ask people what they need and want, which is what I did. And if you ask them, don't try to be a mind reader. And if you ask someone an outrageous question because you need to know to help them, and by the way, consulting with the client is what I did. I never went around saying, this is what you need, I have the best this, I had the best that. I differentiated myself because the lodging industry is a tough, tough business because everyone goes through corporate and blah, blah, blah. So I had to start with asking them questions of what they're not getting and what they don't have. Don't try to be a mind reader and know what they want and know what they need. You'll be a loser because I don't know any real mind readers, okay? When you're in front of your client, ask them. Go in there with a blank slate and be with them. You know, when I sold to my customers after a while, you know, I didn't sit there and my client sat on the other side. I sat right next to them, you know, speaking. And they knew I was on their side, and they knew I was going to take care of them no matter what. Even if they ordered the wrong product. And back then when I had no money, I never had money till I sold my company because I kept putting money back in the business. They knew I would take it back no matter what would happen. So at any rate, I had gone to, you know, I used to go door to door to hotels, and after a while, I learned how to fit into the culture. This culture was, I only sold to 4- and 5-star hotels. Why? Because if you want to make money and you want to get paid, only knock on the door of businesses that have money. If you got everyone and everything to choose from, just go there. I knew I didn't have anything to fall back on. So I said, who is going to pay their bills? And if I went into the Grand Hyatt and that purchasing agent decided that they were not going to pay, I knew I could go to corporate and say, you know, your Grand Hyatt in New York didn't pay the bill I delivered. Here's the goods, here's the purchase order, and I would get the money. So that's like so, so key. You won't go bankrupt like that, trust me. At any rate, I was going around to hotels, and there was this one hotel called the Plaza Hotel. And I had gone there many times for many, many years by now. And I come into the building, and I look around. And see where I am right now. That's not it, but we'll not pay attention to that. I went in, and I looked around, and I said, you know, the lobby looks different. You know, there were stanchions that were red, and there were a lot of glitz. So I walked into purchasing, and I said, Susan, what's with the glitz in the lobby? And they said to me, don't you know that the Trumps bought the Plaza? I said, they bought the Plaza? I said, you mean the Trumps from Atlantic City that had all those hotels there? He said, yeah. I says, okay. And I rush home like I'm going to do something about this because, you know, the Plaza Hotel was a 4-star historic property. And I took like full feeling that these were my hotels. And I went home and I went to my office, back bedroom, and I wrote a letter to Mrs. Trump. Dear Mrs. Trump, congratulations on your purchase of the 4-star historic Plaza Hotel. However, in order for you to maintain your investment, I have some suggestions for you because you are not treating it like a 4-star historic hotel. If you wish to speak to me, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Mailed it out. I mailed it out. What did it hurt? Cost me a stamp. No one's going to hit me. Well, the next day, I got a call from their purchasing agent, Steve Kaplan, and Steve says to me, Mrs. Trump wants to see you today. And I says, oh, I'm sorry. I says, I can't possibly go today. And he says, what? He sounded like he was foaming at the mouth. And I says, I just can't. He says, how about tomorrow? I says, I can't. So he says, when can you come? I said, next Tuesday. The reason that I said I can't go, I wasn't trying to be uppity or hard to get or anything stupid. I needed to go back into the city because I lived all the way in Port Jefferson. I needed to go back into the city and stand on the corner where she lived in her community and see how they dressed. Because as you know, mirroring is very, very, very important. So I looked around and I saw what they wore, and I noticed a lot of ladies were wearing this flower on their lapel, and they were wearing very stylish suits. I always wore very, I hate to say the word manly, but very professional suits because my industry it called for it, and I got like in the habit of it. And so anyway, I went back home, I bought the clothes, blah, blah, and I went to see her. Well, she opened the door, and she was wearing the flower and a pendulum suit like I was. So we had an immediate meeting of the minds. She thought I was like her, and that's the perfect mirroring. You have to mirror the clients that you're with. So they think you're like them, and so they think that you know what you're saying is correct. And that's what I did. My next thing is, I guess according to this screen, it's say yes to everything. So you say yes to everything? Yes. As a salesperson, and we're all salespersons no matter who we are or what we do, say yes to everything, unless it's illegal, immoral, can hurt you or someone else. So what does that mean? That means when you go out to see clients and they ask you for something and you don't sell it or you don't have it, but that client wants it, and this client, of course, is worth your time and effort, say, I don't have it, but I will go out and I will look for it for you. A lot of salespeople go, or business people go, no, I don't have it. I can't get it. We don't do that. But if this is a big client and it has huge potential, make an effort to go and get it. Make an effort to go and do it. Because this is what's known as a big, big buying signal. So I had my list of products that I had in my mind that when I went to trade shows all over the country, I did research for them. And then when I found it and I went back to them, they bought it. They just didn't buy it, but they were so grateful that I was the only person that took the time and effort and trouble to actually go and get it for them. I just didn't walk in and say, yeah, you like that? I'll take it off my shelf and deliver it to you. I'll give you a good price. They liked the fact that I was working for them, or they got the feeling that I was working for them. I was working for them, actually, because when I gave to them, they gave back to me in dollars and cents, and I really did care about them. I had one client that accounting double paid me. They double paid me, $6,000. You say, what's $6,000? I got news for you, $6,000 when I first started my business. I could have bought a lot of sneakers for my kids. I could have bought merchandise. I mean, that was a huge amount of money for me. But that was not mine. And I always dealt honestly with my clients. Actually, I always dealt honestly with myself, and that didn't meet my requirements. So I went back to the hotel, and I went to the accounting department, and I wrote a check out, and I gave it back to them. First of all, the accounting department guy, he almost died because he can't make those kinds of mistakes. And I says, I'm really sorry. I can't keep it. It's not mine. End of story, right? By the time I got to my fourth hotel, they talked to each other. And everyone knew me as the honest salesperson, because this is all in the beginning of my business, which I stayed pretty much in alignment with. So I got a great, great reputation for being honest. and doing the right thing. And even when they asked me for things that I knew was proprietary to other people and that I would be stepping on their toes by hurting them, I bypassed it because I looked at the bigger picture. I did all this in 14 years because I had to hurry up. My kids needed college money coming up soon. So I did all this in 14 years, and it works, it works, it works. And now, say yes to everything else. The other thing is, let me go past that one. Oh, gosh. This is my favorite thing. Never listen to the stupidity of the masses. When people tell you, this is the way things are done, this is what you're supposed to do, don't listen to them. As a matter of fact, don't talk to anybody sometimes, because everyone will say one thing to you. You can't be done. It's never been done. Don't be ridiculous. You can't do it. Like, close your ears. Be unique. What does that mean? All these things that people are saying can't be done, you go do it, and guess who has the business? You do. You can't walk around in life being a me too, me too, me too, because how many me toos make millions and millions of dollars? I never set out to make millions and millions of dollars, but guess what? I did because of my thinking. I didn't listen to anyone. If I knew something was correct, I did it. I handled it. My son was in the World Trade Center. Of course, that's when they hit his building. He was on some high floor. So he gathered up his coworkers, and they went down the steps, and they went First they went down the steps. It was pretty fast, and then it was one step, one step, one step. And then they finally got to the mezzanine. And someone came out of the mezzanine door and said, "Don't go down there. It's too dangerous. The ceiling is falling. Don't go down there." So they pushed my son and his 4 coworkers into the mezzanine. And then all of a sudden, my son told me, of course, thank God he's fine. Of course, you would know that, or else how would I know the story? When he called me to tell me he was okay at 12:12 that morning, that afternoon, he said, "Mommy, I heard you scream in my head. Never listen to the stupidity of the masses." So I quickly moved forward, grabbed my friends, and we ran to safety. So these are so important things to have in your mind, is to stay focused on your own thinking, on your own way of being. Act as if. So when I came from a very, very poor background, as I mentioned to you before, and I really had no role models to know how to go and to deal with 4- and 5-star hotels. So I watched. I mirrored, I watched, I mirrored, I watched. And I saw how they dressed, and I saw how the wealthy women dressed, and how they held themselves, and how they did what they had to do. And I acted as if. So when I went to my first account, my first venture as acting as if, is I went to the Grand Hyatt right here on, I think it's whatever street. I wanted to go see the purchasing agent or housekeeper or anyone, and they'd always say to me, "They're busy, they don't need anything, they don't want anything." So after the 19th time, I said, "Thank you very much." And I went up to one of the floors, and I followed one of the maids, because I said, they get those carts from somewhere. And I took the service elevator downstairs, and there I was in the area where money is to be made. So I knew I landed, and I couldn't look like a vendor off the street. So I straightened up, and I walked around like I just came from corporate. I acted as if, and I roamed around the buildings, no problems. I never did anything wrong or bad, but they all thought I belonged. And acting as if also psychologically helps you get involved in any kind of business that you want to. Just act as if. But don't go to a hospital and try to do surgery. The meaning of no. The only thing no means is you didn't ask enough questions. The meaning of no just means you didn't ask enough questions. No doesn't mean no. If I tell you how many times clients told me no, it would burn your brain. As a matter of fact, of course, when I went selling back of the house, everyone said no. They used to say several things. They used to say no, leave, get out, and please don't come back again. Those were my things I heard on a regular basis. And I used to see 13 hotels on average every day that I went in. But I kept going back, and each time I went back, I just presented myself differently until I found a way of presenting myself where they wouldn't get out of the chair and close the door in my face. And finally, they let me in. They let me into the world of very, very big business. So, meaning of no, it just means that you didn't ask enough questions, you didn't ask the right questions, and as a matter of fact, when a client says no, what you have to do is just say the question differently, present it differently, ask them another question about it. And after you do that several times, please stop, because you'll become obnoxious. So what you do is you take yourself out, and you think about this again, and then you go back in. Now some of us have a variety of lots of different clients. My clients were big hotels, and I wasn't going to let a Marriott Marquis, like this property was my property, say no to me and go away. I'm not walking away from thousands of rooms. Oh, by the way, I created the press kit, the ironing board that go into the guest room closets, because after going door to door, all these hotels, I figured out the things that they need. And this was my first hotel that I sold the press kits to, because what I did with them, because you work with them, what I did with them is I showed them why it is more. I went to see the director of operations, and I said to him, how many housemen do you hire to bring up these irons and ironing boards? You know, especially a business hotel, everyone asks for one, and they can't bring them all up. So he told me how many housemen. And then I said to him, what are their salaries? He told me the salaries. I said, let's do some math. I showed him, point blank, that it would be less money for him to buy them, of course, from me. I was the only one doing that. I came up with the idea. And not only that, the customer service and the lowering of complaints would go way down. So I sold it to him, and I sold probably 1 million of them as well. Oy. My favorite four-letter word, who can guess what that is? You're wrong. My favorite four-letter word is next. So what does that mean? That means if you get involved in craziness from a client, from a vendor, from whatever goes on in your life, instead of getting involved in it, just let it go and say next and go sell something. Keep up with your goals. Keep up with what you're doing. You do not have to jump into those crazy shoes that are put down in front of you. Treat your employees like gold, period. Not only your employees, but everyone you come across, everyone you deal with. Because if you don't, then guess what? You never know who can sabotage you. Very, very quick example. I had about 50 employees. I had this one salesperson that didn't like the warehouseman. And she used to have an attitude towards him, really stinky attitude. Anyway, she got this request for an iron, which would mean, I don't know, about $1 million in business, because it was a huge chain. And they needed it for a presentation for one of my salespeople out west. So she goes into the warehouse and she says, Tommy, you got to get this iron. It needs to be there tomorrow for the presentation. Got to be there tomorrow. So Tommy goes, no problems. I'll get it there for you tomorrow. You know what Tommy did? As soon as she walked away, she threw it on the floor. Didn't get it. Guess what? Be nice to everybody. You don't know who's gonna get you and how they're going to get you. It doesn't have to look a certain way. In the beginning of my business, I remember I was sitting in a diner and I saw a newspaper, and it was a picture of a little girl hugging an elephant. She decides she wants to hug this baby elephant that was sitting, so she went and got a stool and she hugged this elephant. And I looked at this picture and I felt it was me, because I don't see things the same way. I see things, I can do it. I see things as everything is possible, as long as it meets my 4 criteria. Honesty, Okay, you know what that is. So at any rate, so that really is a criteria that's very important. It doesn't have to look a certain way. You can create it how you wish it to be. Oops, that's not working. Help me, Lord. Okay. All right, I can turn my page here. I'm glad I have a, no worries. All right, and I think I'm just about done, but just remember, only knock on the door of people that have money. I want to thank you all for coming. I hope I gave you some thoughts and ideas so when you go out into the world to do what you have to do to sell, okay? And if you need any additional information, please, come up, give me your card or a seminar, coaching, whatever. I'm here for all of you. You have a question, sir?
Actually, she's just getting the box for you. Everybody give her a hand. Thank you very much, Sheila.